Hello and welcome to another part of AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner Exam Practice Question Series, friends. If you haven't watched previous parts yet, then don't forget to watch them as well, as we have already covered 80 questions in those parts. Now, coming to this part, we are going to look at another set of 40 questions which mimic the style of content you will likely see in the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam. So stay with me till the end of this video.
Question number 81. What is the main benefit of the principle of loose coupling? Your options are reduce interdependency, so a failure in one component does not cascade to other components, reduce operational complexity, enables applications to scale automatically based on current demand, automate the deployment of infrastructure using code. The correct answer is option A. Loose coupling enables you to add additional code or features to a component while minimizing risk to components that depend on it. Limiting interconnections can help isolate problems when things go wrong and simplify testing, maintenance, and troubleshooting procedures. Next question. AWS acceptable use policy for penetration testing allows which of the following? Your options are option A. Customers can carry out security assessments or penetration tests against their AWS infrastructure after obtaining authorization from AWS. Option B, authorized security accessors to perform penetration tests against AWS customer without authorization. Option C, AWS to perform penetration testing against customer resources without notification. Option D, customers to carry out security assessments or penetration tests against their AWS infrastructure without prior approval for selected services. So the correct answer is option D. Customers to carry out security assessments or penetration tests against their AWS infrastructure without prior approval for selected services. AWS allows customer to carry out security assessments or penetration tests of their AWS infrastructure without prior approvals for the services, namely Amazon EC2 instances, NAT gateways, WAF, Elastic Load Balancers, Amazon RDS, Amazon CloudFront, Amazon Aurora, and few more, which are listed at the link I have shared on my screen. One thing to note is Amazon allows penetration testing of S3 hosted applications, but specifically targeting S3 buckets is strictly prohibited. Moving on to question number 83. The DevOps team in your organization is keen to explore a AWS service which can be used to manage infrastructure as a code. Which of the following can be used to meet this requirement? Your options are option A, AWS Inspector, option B, AWS Config, option C, AWS CloudFormation, option D, AWS Trusted Advisor. So the correct answer is option C, AWS CloudFormation. It lets you model, provision, and manage AWS and third-party resources by treating infrastructure as code. A CloudFormation template describes your desired resources and their dependencies, so you can launch and configure them together as a stack. You can use a template to create, update, and delete an entire stack as a single unit as often as you need to instead of managing resources individually. You can manage and provision stacks across multiple AWS accounts and AWS regions. Moving on to question 84. Which feature of AWS IAM enables you to identify unnecessary permissions that have been assigned to users? Your options are A. Role Advisor, B. Access Advisor, C. Group Advisor, D. Permissions Advisor. So the correct answer is option B. Access Advisor. IAM Access Advisor helps you audit service access, remove unnecessary permissions, and set appropriate permissions, providing the last timestamp when an IAM entity accessed an AWS service. An IAM entity can be a user, it can be a role, or it can be a group. Moving on to question 85. A web application running on AWS has been receiving malicious requests from the same set of IP addresses. Which AWS service can help secure the application and block the malicious traffic? Your options are Amazon Inspector, Amazon Guard Duty, AWS WAF, AWS IAM. So the right answer is option C, AWS WAF. A web access control list, which is one of the components of WAF, gives you fine-grained control over all of the HTTPS web requests that you protected resource respond to. You can protect Amazon CloudFront, Amazon API Gateway, Application Load Balancer, AWS AppSync, and Amazon Cognito resources. You can use criteria like the following to allow or block request: IP address origin of the request, country of origin of the request, string match or regular expression, which is regex match in a part of the request, size of a particular part of the request, and detection of malicious SQL code or scripting. You can go to this link to understand more about IP addresses blocking and how it is set up. Moving on to question 86. Which type of elastic load balancer operates at level 4, which is transport layer of the OSI model? Your options are application load balancer, classic load balancer, Amazon Route 53 load balancer, network load balancer. So the correct answer is option D, network load balancer. A network load balancer functions at the fourth layer of open systems interconnection model. It can handle millions of requests per second. After the load balancer receives a connection request, it selects a target from the target group for the default rule. It attempts to open a TCP connection to the selected target on the port specified in the listener configuration. Moving on to question 87. A cloud engineer wants to bootstrap an EC2 instance. How can the engineer achieve this? Your options are utilize AWS config, build metadata, utilize user data, run command. The right answer is option C, utilize user data. When you launch an instance in Amazon EC2, you have the option of passing user data to the instance that can be used to perform common automated configuration tasks and even run scripts after the instance starts. You can pass two types of user data to Amazon EC2. Either it is a shell script or they are cloud init directives. Moving on to next question. Which of the below statements regarding Amazon S3 buckets is accurate? You need to choose two options. Your options are bucket names must be unique globally, buckets are replicated globally, bucket names must be unique regionally, buckets are region specific, you can have nested buckets. So the correct answer is option C and option D. Bucket names must be unique globally and buckets are region specific. You can refer to the link on my screen to understand more rules around the naming of S3 buckets. Moving on to question 89. Which of the following is an AWS domain name system DNS web service? Your options are option A, Amazon Route 53, option B, AWS Snowball, option C, Amazon Light Sail, option D, AWS Direct Connect. The correct answer is option A, Amazon Route 53. Amazon Route 53 is a highly available and scalable domain name system web service. Route 53 connects user requests to internet applications running on AWS or on-premise. Question number 90. Which of the following services have distributed denial of service attack mitigation features You need to choose two options. Your options are AWS WAF, AWS KMS, AWS CloudTrail, Amazon Route 53. So the right options are option A and option B, AWS WAF and Amazon Route 53. Moving on to question 91. Which of the following Amazon EC2 pricing model for reserved instances gives the highest discount? Your options are option A, no upfront payment for a 3-year term. Option B, all upfront payment for a 1-year term. Option C, partial upfront for a 1-year term. Option D, all upfront payment for a 3-year term. So the correct answer is option D, all upfront payment for a 3-year term. You can choose between three payment options when you purchase a standard or convertible reserved instance. With the all upfront option, you pay for the entire reserved instance term with one upfront payment. This option provides you with the largest discount compared to on-demand instance pricing. With the partial upfront option, you make a low upfront payment and are then charged a discounted hourly rate for the instance for the duration of the reserved instance term. The no upfront option does not require any upfront payment and provides a discounted hourly rate for the duration of the term. Moving on to question 92. Where can you find software listings from independent software vendors that make it easy to find, test, buy, and deploy softwares that run on AWS? Your options are AWS Marketplace, AWS Glue, Amazon Athena, AWS Cloud Search. So the correct answer is AWS Marketplace. AWS Marketplace is a curated digital catalog that makes it easy to find, test, buy, and deploy the third-party softwares you want with the simplified procurement and controls you need. Moving on to next question. You want to be notified when your AWS usage costs exceed or are forecasted to exceed a specific dollar amount. Which of the following AWS services can be used to achieve this requirement? Your options are option A, AWS Cloud Cost Explorer, option B, AWS Budgets, option C, AWS Trusted Advisor, option D, AWS QuickSight. So the correct answer is option B, AWS Budgets. AWS Budgets is the simplest way to monitor your AWS spend and be alerted when you exceed or are forecasted to exceed your desired spending limit. With AWS Budgets, you can set custom budgets to track your cost and usage and respond quickly to alerts received from email or SMS notifications if you exceed your threshold. Moving on to question 94. Which of the following is the design principle for operational excellence under the AWS well-architected framework pillars? Your options are option A, apply security at all layers. Option B, stop guessing capacity. Option C, go global in minutes. Option D, learn from all operational failures. So the correct answer is option D, learn from all operational failures. There are 5 design principles for operational excellence in the cloud. Perform operations as code, make frequent, small, and reversible changes, refine operation procedures frequently, anticipate failures, learn from all operational failures. Question number 95. Which of the following is the fully managed extract, transform, and load service that helps AWS customers to prepare and load their data for analytics? Your options are AWS Lambda, AWS Athena, AWS Glue, AWS Direct Connect. The correct answer is option C, AWS Glue. AWS Glue is a serverless data integration service that makes it easier to discover, prepare, move, and integrate data from multiple sources for analytics, machine learning, and application development. AWS Glue provides all the capabilities needed for data integration so you can start analyzing your data and putting it to use in minutes instead of months. Moving on to question number 96. Which of the following AWS services in combination can be used to serve large amounts of online video content with least possible latency? You have to choose two options. Your options are AWS Storage Gateway, Amazon EFS, Amazon S3, Amazon Glacier, Amazon CloudFront. So the correct answers are option C and option E. CloudFront speeds up content delivery by leveraging its global network of data centers known as edge locations to reduce delivery time by caching your content close to your end users. CloudFront fetches your content from an origin such as Amazon S3 bucket, an EC2 instance, an ELB load balancer, or your own web server when it's not already in an edge location. Moving on to question 97. Which AWS service automatically detects impaired Amazon EC2 instances and replaces the instances without manual intervention? Your options are A. AWS Lambda, B. AWS Cognito, C. Elastic Load Balancer, D. Amazon EC2 Auto Scaling. So the correct answer is D. Amazon EC2 Auto Scaling. When EC2 auto scaling determines that an in service instance is unhealthy, it terminates the instance while it launches a new replacement instance. The new instance launches using the current settings of the auto scaling group and its associated launch template or launch configuration. You can refer to the link on your screen to understand more about EC2 auto scaling health checks and how they function in the background. Moving on to question 98. Your organization needs to use their existing licenses for Microsoft Windows and SQL Server while also addressing strict corporate compliance requirements. Which EC2 pricing model would you recommend? Your options are option A, reserved instance, option B, spot instances, option C, dedicated hosts, option D, savings plan. So the correct answer is option C, dedicated hosts. Dedicated hosts allow you to use your existing per socket, per core, or per VM software license, including Windows Server, SQL Server, Linux Enterprise Server, Red Hat Linux Enterprise Server, or other software licenses that are bound to VMs, sockets, or physical cores subject to your license terms. Amazon EC2 dedicated host is also integrated with AWS License Manager, a service which helps you manage your software licenses, including Microsoft Windows Server and Microsoft SQL Server licenses. Moving on to question 99. Which of the following is AWS fully managed relational database engine that is compatible with MySQL and PostgreSQL and can deliver up to 5 times the throughput of MySQL? Your options are Amazon Aurora, AWS RDS, AWS DynamoDB, Amazon Redshift. So the correct answer is option A, Amazon Aurora. It is a relational database management system built for cloud with full MySQL and PostgreSQL compatibility. Aurora gives you the performance and availability of commercial grade databases at 1/10 of the cost. It provides up to 5x the throughput of MySQL and 3x the throughput of PostgreSQL. So make a note, there can be two variations of this question. In the current question, we are talking about up to 5 times the throughput of MySQL, but this question can be altered to up to 3 times the throughput of PostgreSQL as well. But the answer will always be Amazon Aurora. Moving on to next question. Which AWS service allocates resources automatically, allowing an organization to quickly deploy applications? Your options are AWS CloudFormation, AWS Config, AWS Artifact, AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So the correct answer is option D, Elastic Beanstalk. It is a service for deploying and scaling web applications and services. Upload your code and Elastic Beanstalk automatically handles the deployment from capacity provisioning, load balancing, and auto scaling to application health monitoring as well.
Friends, if you are liking the content, then do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe the channel. As a reminder, if you are looking to gain access to the PDF version of all the questions that have been covered in the series till now and other questions that we plan to cover in future, then do not forget to take the gold membership of the channel and email me at devopshub2023@gmail.com requesting the PDF copy. Friends, if you are someone who is not willing to commit to a monthly membership, then we do have one-time payment options as well. You can email us on the same email ID and we can walk you through those processes as well. Let's now get back to the questions.
John is setting up the infrastructure for a web application that requires multiple EC2 instances to handle the expected demand. However, when testing the application, he discovers all the traffic is routed to only one of the servers. Which AWS feature should he add to his application in order to evenly distribute traffic among all servers? Your options are auto scaling, Elastic Load Balancer, Route 53, Amazon CloudFront. So the key to answer this question is you need to look for keywords in the question. So the keyword here is John is looking for a solution which gives him the ability to distribute the traffic evenly on all the servers. Whenever you have a keyword to evenly distribute traffic, you need to look for options where there is a mention of load balancer. So the right answer is option B, Elastic Load Balancer. Elastic load balancing automatically distributes incoming application traffic evenly between all the servers that are associated with it. It can distribute traffic in one or more availability zones. Next question. How can a company configure automatic asynchronous copying of objects in Amazon S3 bucket across regions? Your options are using cross-region replication, by configuring multi-master replication, using lifecycle actions. This is done by default by AWS. So the right answer is option A, using cross-region replication. Cross-region replication enables automatic asynchronous copying of objects across Amazon S3 buckets. You can replicate objects to a single destination bucket or to multiple destination buckets. The destination buckets can be in different AWS regions or within the same region as the source bucket. You can refer to the link on my screen to understand cross-region replication in more detail. Next question. How can a database administrator reduce the operational overhead for a MySQL database? Your options are migrate the database onto an Amazon EC2 instance, use AWS CloudFormation to manage operations, migrate the database onto AWS Lambda, migrate the database onto Amazon RDS instance. Whenever there is a mention in the question to reduce the operational overhead, you need to look at any option which gives you a capability or a service which is a managed service. So in this case, the right answer is option D, migrate the database onto Amazon RDS instance. Amazon RDS is a managed relational database service that supports multiple database engines, including MySQL, MariaDB, PostgreSQL, Oracle, and Microsoft SQL Server. You reduce operational overhead when you start consuming a managed service. Question number 104. Which feature of AWS allows you to deploy a new application for which the requirements may change over time? Your options are operational excellence, high availability, fault tolerance, elasticity. So the right answer is option D, elasticity. Elasticity is the ability to acquire resources as you need them and release resources when you no longer need them. It allows you to deploy your application without worrying about whether it will need more resources in future or not. Moving on to next question. Which AWS service can be used for building and integrating loosely coupled distributed applications? Your options are A, Amazon EBS, B, Amazon SNS, C, Amazon EFS, D, Amazon RDS. Let's understand what loosely coupled application is. Loosely coupled application means breaking an application into multiple independent services. Whenever there is issue in one service, it doesn't impact the other service. So in this case, the right answer is option B, Amazon SNS. Amazon SNS, which is also called a simple notification service, is a web service that makes it easy to set up, operate, and send notifications. It can be used in combination with Amazon SQS, which is simple queue service, to decouple and scale microservices, distributed systems, and serverless applications and improve reliability. So even though in the options you just have Amazon SNS individually is not capable of breaking up the application. It always works in coordination with Amazon SQS when you are trying to decouple an application. Moving on to question 106. Which AWS service allows you to use block-based volumes on premise that are then asynchronously backed up to Amazon S3? Your options are AWS Storage Gateway Volume Gateway, AWS Storage Gateway File Gateway, Amazon S3 Transfer Acceleration, Amazon S3 Multi-Part Upload. So the right answer is option A, AWS Storage Gateway Volume Gateway. You can store your primary data locally while asynchronously backing up that data to AWS. Stored volumes provide your on-premise applications with low latency access to their entire dataset. At the same time, they provide durable offsite backups. You can create storage volumes and mount them as iSCSI devices from your on-premise application servers. Data returned to your stored volumes is stored on your on-premise storage hardware. This data is asynchronously backed up to Amazon S3 as Amazon EBS snapshots, which is Elastic Block Store. If they were talking about file-based storage, then the answer would have been option B, AWS Storage Gateway, File Gateway. So there can be two variations of this question. Moving on to next question. Your management is looking to deploy a shared file access on AWS. Hundreds of EC2 instances will access the file system simultaneously and will need petabytes of data storage. Which AWS service is best option in this case? Your options are Amazon EC2, Amazon EBS, Amazon EFS, Amazon S3. So the right answer is option C, Amazon EFS. EFS file systems can automatically scale from gigabytes to petabytes of data without needing to provision storage. Tens, hundreds, or even thousands of compute instances can access an Amazon EFS file system at the same time. And Amazon EFS provides consistent performance to each compute instance. Amazon EFS is designed to be highly durable and highly available. With Amazon EFS, there is no minimum fees or setup costs, and you pay only for what you use. Moving on to next question. Choose the best Amazon Route 53 routing policy that can route traffic to multiple resources based on the end user's location. Your options are A. Failover routing policy, B. Simple routing policy, C. Latency routing policy, D. Geolocation routing policy. So the right answer is option D, geolocation routing policy. Geolocation routing lets you choose the resources that serve your traffic based on the geographic location of your users, meaning the location that DNS queries originate from. For example, you might want all queries from Europe to be routed to an ELB load balancers in the Frankfurt region. You can refer to the link on my screen to understand more about geolocation routing policy. You can expect to get at least a question in the exam, which might be revolving around the routing policies of Amazon Route 53. So I would recommend you to go through all the routing policies. Moving on to question 109. Which of the following AWS services can an organization use to automate operational tasks on EC2 instances using existing chef cookbooks? Your options are AWS Config, AWS Service Catalog, AWS OpsWorks, AWS Code Deploy. So the right answer is C, AWS OpsWorks. AWS OpsWorks is a configuration management service that provides managed instances of Chef and Puppet. OpsWorks lets you use Chef and Puppet to automate how servers are configured, deployed, and managed across your Amazon EC2 instances or on-premise compute environments. OpsWorks has three offerings: AWS OpsWorks for Chef Automate, AWS OpsWorks for Puppet Enterprise, and AWS OpsWorks Stacks. Moving on to question 110. Which AWS service can be used to automate the provisioning of infrastructure and administrative tasks for an analytical data warehouse? Your options are A. Amazon Redshift, B. Amazon SageMaker, C. Amazon OpenSearch, D. Amazon QuickSight. Whenever there is a mention of data warehouse, you need to look at Amazon Redshift in the options. If it is there, most likely that's going to be your answer. So the right answer in this case is option A, Amazon Redshift. Amazon Redshift is a fully managed petabyte scale data warehouse service in the cloud. You can start with just a few hundred gigabytes of data and scale to petabytes or more. This enables you to use your data to acquire new insights for your business and customers. It uses SQL to analyze structured and semi-structured data. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following features can be used to preview the changes to be made to an AWS resource when using the AWS CloudFormation template? Your options are AWS CloudFormation stack sets, AWS CloudFormation change sets, AWS CloudFormation drift detection, AWS CloudFormation intrinsic functions. So the right answer is option B, AWS CloudFormation change sets. Change sets allow you to preview how proposed changes to a stack might impact your running resources. For example, whether your changes will delete or replace any critical resource. AWS CloudFormation makes the changes to your stack only when you decide to execute the change set, allowing you to decide whether to proceed with your proposed changes or explore other changes by creating another change set. Next question. A weather tracking website monitors the weather along the flight route. This information is used by travelers around the world to plan their trip. Travelers are expecting quick turnaround time when booking flights and viewing the weather. This website is using Amazon Route 53 DNS, which is the best routing policy for the website. Your options are failover routing policy, geolocation routing policy, latency based routing policy, weighted routing policy? So the right answer is latency based routing policy. Again, there is a link on my screen to read more about latency based routing policy. I would recommend you to go through it and read more about it. Moving on to next question. What can be termed as a user defined label that has a key value pair of variable character length, which is assigned to AWS resources as metadata for administration and management purposes? Your options are option A, tag key, option B, resource flag, option C, resource tag, option D, resource group. So the correct answer is option C, resource tag. You can assign metadata to your AWS resources in the form of tags. Each tag is a label consisting of a user defined key and value. Tags can help you manage, identify, organize, search for, and filter resources. You can create tags to categorize resources by purpose, owner, environment, or any other criteria which you would want to use. Next question. Which of the following services can be used to investigate and analyze the root cause of potential security threat to AWS resources? Your options are AWS Shield, Amazon Detective, Amazon Guard Duty, AWS Security Hub. So the right answer is Amazon Detective. Amazon Detective can be used to analyze and visualize security data to investigate potential security issues. It collects and analyzes data from multiple sources like AWS CloudTrail logs, VPC flow logs, and Amazon Guard Duty findings. Based upon unified findings created by Amazon Detective, the security team can quickly determine the root cause of security threat. Moving on to question 115. Which of the following is a secure, isolated networking component that can be used to host EC2 resources in the AWS cloud? Your options are AWS VPC, AWS EKS, AWS NACL, AWS ECS. So the correct answer is option A, AWS VPC. Amazon VPC or Virtual Private Cloud enables you to launch AWS resources into a virtual network that you have defined. This virtual network closely resembles a traditional network that you would operate in your own data center, with the benefits of using the scalable infrastructure of AWS. Next question. Your web application is deployed in the Ohio region. The website is now planned to be distributed to other regions, and you plan to use CloudFront for global distribution. What statements about CloudFront are false? You need to choose two options. Just make sure that you read it correctly. You need to choose the statements that are false. So your options are CloudFront can help improve performance by using keep alive connections between edge locations and origin server. Option B, CloudFront uses the concept of edge locations for caching and delivering content faster for its users. Option C, CloudFront doesn't cache dynamic content. Option D, CloudFront can use only S3 buckets as their origin server from which they cache content. So the correct answers are option C and option D. You can use several different kinds of origin with CloudFront. For example, you can use an Amazon S3 bucket, a media store container, a media package channel, an application load balancer, or even an AWS Lambda function URL. CloudFront can serve dynamic content as well. You can refer to the link on my screen to understand more around serving of dynamic content by CloudFront. Moving on to question number 117. A number of large objects from different geographical locations need to be uploaded to an S3 bucket. Which is the fastest and most reliable way to accomplish this? Your options are: option A, you can directly access the S3 bucket from the different locations and use a multi-part upload for transferring huge objects. Option B, you can use S3 transfer acceleration from each geographic location for transferring data quickly. Option C, you can use a direct connect link from each of the geographic locations for transferring data quickly. Option D, you can connect to an application running on AWS EC2 that is hosted in multiple regions using Route 53 and use latency based routing to upload files to S3 bucket. So the right answer is option B. You can use S3 transfer acceleration from each geographic location for transferring data quickly. The best way to address this scenario is to route the requests to the nearest CloudFront edge locations from the different geographic locations. Edge locations provide a fast network infrastructure, bypassing much of internet for delivering content to S3 destinations. Performance gains of nearly 50 to 500% can be observed while using S3 transfer acceleration. Moving on to next question. Which two functions can be performed using Amazon Route 53? You need to choose two right answers. Your options are: connect user requests to AWS infrastructure, create and manage cryptographic keys, transfer DNS records for domain names from other registrars, connect an on-premise data center directly to AWS via fiber optic cables. So the right answers are option A and option C. Amazon Route 53 connects user requests to AWS infrastructure. It also provides DNS services, including transferring DNS records to any existing domain names that may be with other registrars. You can also register new domain names using Route 53. It also provides a reliable method of connecting users to infrastructure, which may be inside or outside of AWS, including allowing end users to access web applications hosted using AWS. Moving on to next question. You have deployed your application on multiple Amazon EC2 instances. Your customer complain that sometimes they can't reach the application. Which AWS service allows you to monitor the performance of your EC2 instances to assist in troubleshooting these issues? Your options are: A, AWS CloudTrail, B, AWS Config, C, Amazon CloudWatch, D, AWS Lambda. So the right answer is option C, Amazon CloudWatch. It collects and visualizes real-time logs, metrics, and event data in automated dashboards to streamline your infrastructure and application maintenance. Amazon CloudWatch is a monitoring and management service that provides data and actionable insights for AWS, hybrid, and on-premise applications and infrastructure resources. Moving on to question 120. A company is deploying a new two-tier web application in AWS. Where should the most frequently accessed data be stored so that the application's response time is optimal? Your options are: A, AWS Storage Gateway, B, Amazon EBS Volume, C, AWS OpsWorks, D, Amazon Elastic Cache. So the correct answer is option D, Amazon Elastic Cache. Amazon Elastic Cache is a fully managed in-memory caching service supporting flexible real-time use cases. You can use Elastic Cache for caching, which accelerates application and database performance, or as a primary data store for use cases that don't require durability, like session stores, gaming leaderboards, streaming, and analytics. Elastic Cache is compatible with Redis and Memcached.
Thank you for staying with us till the end of this video, folks. I'll soon be releasing more parts in the series, so stay tuned.